Brilliant. Well, it's a pleasure to share some of this morning with you and with this panel. I'm James. I live in West Kirby, so just hopped on the Wirral line to come over here this morning. Fairly new to the area, but already feeling very much at home here. It's a fantastic place to live and to do business. I run a company called Inversity. It's an AI skills company, and we might talk a little bit about that later. But I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves now, and we've got Krystina next to me, we've got Emma, we've got Ahmad, and we've got Craig. But I'm going to have a few rules for introductions and the rest of the panel to jazz this up a little bit. So I'd like you to introduce yourself, and yes, please do say, what you do in a sentence, because everyone probably wants to know that. But I'd also like to know, in one single sentence, what's the one thing you believe about the future of work that surprises people when you tell them? Okay, Krystina, kick us off.
No pressure. Hi everyone, my name's Krystina. I'm an engineer, chartered engineer. I work at BAE Systems as an engineering delivery lead and early careers lead. I also run my own small Etsy business showcasing diversity in STEM careers. And also, in my spare time, I do a lot of engagement with young people about engineering and what it is, going to schools, talk to young people and parents and teachers. So yeah, that's a quick overview of me. And then something that surprises people when I talk about engineering is the fact that a lot of careers don't exist yet, that will exist later on. But, people starting their courses in engineering, things like that, there are so many jobs that don't exist yet that will when they come out of their learning. So that always tends to surprise a lot of people.
Thanks for that. Emma, over to you.
Hi, I knew I should have sat there because Krystina's taken my surprising thing. So I'll need to think of another one quickly. My name's Emma Robinson. My job at LJMU enables me to invite businesses into the curriculum, to connect students and graduates with jobs, and to turn ideas into startups. The surprising thing I'm going to say about future work is I think if you're at school, a drama GCSE is probably going to be very valuable because it lets you hold people's attention, which I think is really important.
That is a surprising one. I like that. Ahmad and Craig, things are hotting up. This is going to get more and more difficult. I don't envy you, Craig. Ahmad, though, you next.
Hi, I'm Ahmad. I'm a student at Liverpool Maths School. So I currently study maths, physics, further maths. And the thing about Liverpool Maths School is that all students actually study these subjects. So I'm looking to get into computer science, and I've actually won quite a couple of James's Inversity challenges designing software solutions for companies which set them. I think something that surprises a lot of people when I tell them is that as a computer scientist and someone who's going to go into software development is that I'm still very, very optimistic about the future of computer science and software development.
So you don't feel threatened by Claude 3.7 yet?
No, but Claude 3.8, that idea scares me.
And just a warning to anyone, if anyone tries to hire Ahmad after this, I will hunt you down. Okay? All right, Craig, over to you.
Thanks very much. So yeah, my name's Craig Pennington. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Future Yard CIC. We're a community music venue over in Birkenhead on the sunny side of the River Mersey. And yeah, one thing that surprises, I suppose I'd say that our organisation was founded on the fundamental belief that music can change the world. And I think that what we've tried to do is reimagine a music venue as a place where you can rethink what a place means, but also the opportunities that can present to local people. So we've embedded new approaches to work-based learning into our model. And I think that if you take that kind of very wide, kind of transformational approach, then you really, really can make a meaningful long-term difference in young people's lives.
Brilliant. Well, let's get straight into it. I'm going to split this panel into two halves. We'll talk about the future of work first, and then what the future workers might look like that do that work. So to kick us off, I thought I would take some quotes from the World Economic Forum's recent Future of Jobs report, which many of you, I presume, have read. This is probably because I didn't do a drama GCSE, so I think if I didn't have a script, I would struggle to hold the audience for long. So I'm going to be reading from my iPad quite a bit, because otherwise, I would flounder. So yeah, I just thought I'd kick off this bit by sort of taking three stats that kind of surprised me in the World Economic Forum's jobs report. The first one was that employers anticipate that 39% of core skills required in the job market will change by 2030. So that's nearly half of core skills will change. And with the fastest growing skills that employers had said were important to them being, unsurprisingly, AI and big data. I don't think any of us would be sort of surprised about that. But perhaps more surprising for some people and reassuring perhaps for this audience, creative thinking and resilience were also in the top 5. The next interesting sort of stat within there was on jobs, how many jobs there'd be. I think there's lots of worry about, AI taking jobs and things like that. But their report sort of predicted that 92 million jobs may be displaced, but 170 million new roles will be created. Now, I didn't go to a maths school, so I'm not going to do the maths on the fly, but that is a net job creation that they're sort of predicting there. And the final thing I wanted to pull out of that report that was perhaps the most surprising to me was what the top 5 job roles, by number created, would be over the next 5 to 10 years. Now, with the top skills supposedly being AI and big data, and I've seen them plastered in the news all the time, you'd expect AI engineers and prompt engineers and things to be in the top 5. And yes, software developers, thankfully for you, Ahmad, does come in at number 3. But at number 1, does anyone know what number 1 on the most created jobs list was? Farm workers. Wasn't expecting that. Delivery drivers was number 2. 4 was builders, and 5 was salespeople. Perhaps lots of people, hopefully, with drama degrees to capture people's attention. So it's a mixed picture, perhaps a confusing picture, a paradoxical one with an up arrow for cutting-edge skills, but also an up arrow for some what we might think of as more traditional jobs. We've got a lot to unpack in this first section of the panel. So if I can come to you first, Krystina, if that's okay. You've worked at BAE for over a decade now. How have you seen work change over that time period? And what clues does that trajectory give us about the future of work in BAE?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting you actually mentioned creative thinking there, because engineering is creative thinking. And one of the things I've seen nationally is that there is a demand for engineers. I think I saw a stat that we have estimated a shortfall of 1 million engineers by 2030. So there is a national crisis of engineers and a shortage at the moment. So that's something that I've seen, not just, lots of engineering companies across the country. So yeah, that's something that surprises a lot of people as well.
And do you see the role of an engineer changing? Do you see it becoming more creative or more technical? How do you see the role changing?
So I guess it depends. There will be the creativity, but I think as well, what you mentioned about drama, there is a lot of working with people, connecting with people. So it's a lot more, some of the skills that we talk about now are not just the technical side of things, but it's more what we call the soft skills, but actually really, really important. So being able to communicate, working together with people, lots of those skills are kind of what we're looking for now.
Brilliant. And Craig, you work in quite a different sector to Krystina, and since sort of launching Future Yard, you've had quite a meteoric rise in the last few years, especially since you launched in COVID, which presumably wasn't the easiest time to launch a music venue. So I'd love your perspective on the future of work in the music sector and the creative sector more broadly, based on your experiences.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you were talking there about some of the particular skill sets that were identified as being important, and I think that resilience will be one that I would really, really, really echo. For those who don't know, we run a program called Soundcheck at Future Yard, and what that does is takes a living, breathing, working live music environments and creates skills training programs for local young people so they can develop the skills, the understanding and the resilience to go into careers within the live music sector. Now, it's a sector with a real skills shortage. There's a real need there for young people with that skill set. And what we've really tried to focus on is making sure that we're opening up the opportunities in that space for young people that haven't gone to university, that haven't gone through those traditional higher education pathways, very, very focused on geographical areas of quite acute poverty and deprivation, which we find ourselves in the heart of in the middle of Birkenhead. So I think building that, understanding and the core skills that you need to be able to enter that workplace, but I would definitely echo that the most, I suppose, profound change that you can make within a young person is to give them that resilience, to give them that power and that aptitude and that confidence to be able to not only understand the opportunities that are available in the sector and develop the skills in order to take advantage of them, but really have that inner resilience to be able to go on that journey. And we're in a position now with our sound check program where all of our in-house sound engineers, event managers, lighting staff have come through that development pathway, have come through that program, and we've got a real rich alumni of graduates now out working in the sector. So I think if you do take that place and kind of resilience-based approach and target it at young people that might not necessarily have that opportunities traditionally, then you really can make quite a profound difference.
And of course, we've seen lots of AI tools come into the music sector, Suno probably being the most sort of, famous one. And if people haven't created their own song on Suno, you should give it a try. It's a mixed bag of results, Craig? What do we see the music industry looking like in 5 or 10 years? Are people going to be embracing AI tools to help in the composition process, in the sort of sound engineer's role, automated level checking? Is it going to look that much different? Or do we not think that's the case?
It's really interesting because these debates around AI and kind of, everyone will know the very famous examples of computer-generated kind of muzak that kind of exist on Spotify that have got, racked up millions and millions and millions of streams. I remember in a previous life before we started Future Yard, when I ran an organisation called Bido Lito, which is a music magazine and small creative agency that we ran, which was based in the Baltic. And we did a project with Seven Store when they opened on Jamaica Street, where we built an AI lab, an AI music studio, and encouraged people to come in and use the AI tools at that time to develop new work. And it's really interesting that, it won't come as a surprise that the quality of the music was questionable. I'm going to choose my words wisely. But there's clearly an innate ability there with the music composition for AI to be able to do things that traditionally only humans could. I think, the space that we are active in is live music. And I think if the last 5 years of running Future Yard has taught me anything, it's that certainly after COVID as well, that those real physical human interactions and experiences are more important than we've ever really realized that they actually were. So I do afford myself the ability, working within live music, to try and distance myself from the demonic gloom of the impending death of the world through AI as much as I possibly can, whilst also, obviously being aware of its challenges on our sector.
That's really interesting. And I guess linked to Krystina's point around the uniquely human skills being important in engineering, it just is really important in music as well, right? I love listening to Taylor's songs because I just feel I can empathize with her and her plight sometimes, right? Can I empathize with AI-generated music even if it sounds more clean and crisp, right? There's something, innately human about embracing other people's imperfections and their quirks, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're human. We're human, and music is, the most, innately human of kind of impulses, both to create it, to engage with it, to enjoy it. It's it's baked into our experience from before we're born. We have that connection to music. It's part of the human condition. So yeah, digital technology will always have a role in that, and the evolving kind of coal face of technology will always kind of have a footprint in music. But we are humans, and we need those experiences.
Amazing. Emma, I'm going to come to you now. I'm interested in your perspective from LJMU. You must be preparing a really broad range of professionals for work, so you get quite a horizontal view, I presume. How are you thinking about the future of work from a thematic perspective, looking across all these different verticals? Well,
I think there's a few things that you can say. Yeah. Firstly, there are too many unknowns at this point. The rate of change and its rapidity is probably the only constant that we've got. So this is why in my work I tend to concentrate on mindset, because a developmental growth mindset and that sort of entrepreneurial curiosity to solve problems is really going to hold, students will hold that in good stead in the future workplace. It's really, again, what Craig was saying about experiences. And I think if you design experiences for students inside and outside the curriculum that give them the opportunity to experience human connection, working with teams, working with others, working with mentors, working with people from different cultural backgrounds so that they understand that a strong team is a diverse team. But you can also design things in like ambiguity, because unlike maths, in real life, well, not in real life, you know, in more complicated environments, there's often not a neat solution to a particular problem, and the compromise is going to be needed. So it's the building in ambiguity, building in failure. It's difficult to do, but we do it at LJMU, and it enables students to reflect on how it's made them feel and become better professionals in the future.
The only certainty is uncertainty. I like it. And like when we're thinking about the future of work and how things are changing already at the minute, you've presumably worked with lots of business leaders who might be in here. Are the work experiences they're giving to your students changing? Are people starting to request that the students come with AI skills or different skills? Or is what they're asking for more of the same, you know, young, hungry people who are motivated, keen to learn, and are good at dealing with uncertainty?
That's a really difficult question, because obviously every business is different. We do sometimes have to do expectation management. So sometimes students are not going to have a lot of experience in the workplace, so they're going to have to swap some of maybe the experience that an employer might value with hunger to succeed, or new ideas, fresh viewpoints, that sort of thing. I think, to flip the question round, I think students want different things now. I think they want more access to hybrid working. I think they want a more relaxed workplace culture. And some of the choices that they make are very based on their own personal values. So that often comes into their choices for internships and graduate employment as well.
Interesting. So would you say the workplaces that are taking on your students are pushing more towards the future, or the students are pushing more to the future and pulling the workplaces along?
I think they're going in the same direction, but maybe not at the same speed.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. And Ahmad, coming to you last on this section. Now, obviously, I suggested you come on this panel because you're a total rock star, and you're from the rock star factory that is the Liverpool School of Maths. And, you know, you've absolutely cleared my business out of prize money. He's won every prize going on the challenges we've run in. And, you know, you've built incredible products with the help of AI, but also you have a lot of these uniquely human skills, the ability to pitch and things really effectively. So how do you think of the future of work as someone who's, you know, going to join the workplace in the coming years? And what do you think about AI's role in it?
So as a student, I think one of the things that surprised me the most is how easy it is to get started learning new things. Like, I think in computer science, there's always been quite a low barrier to entry, because all you really need to get started is, you know, a laptop and a lot of time that you're willing to waste away. But I think, for example, some of the things like when I was learning web design, or learning about accessibility to try and design some of these prototypes, just being able to have, you know, an expert to go to straight away to pick that up and learn has been really useful. I have to imagine that in the future, this is going to come into play with other fields and other disciplines. I think if you can get the same skills in a completely different way, maybe employers will be willing to take you on regardless of what your background looks like.
Ah, fascinating. So, you know, you're getting access to training that, you know, wasn't previously available except in a university setting, and obviously you're making the most of that. And, you know, when you look to the future, Ahmad, you know, fast forward 10 years from now, hopefully you're a very successful, you know, mid-level or senior engineer perhaps by then. How would you like the workplace to look? Like, what sort of place do you want to be working in when you look up from your desk, whether at home or in the office? Like, what do you think it's going to look like?
I think, like you mentioned earlier, like a lot of us younger people after COVID, work from home is really appealing to us. I think being able to have done schoolwork from home and not seeing much difference, I think a lot of people will lean towards work from home. But I think there's also going to be like, a lot of desire for flexibility and, like more freedom in the way you work. Because, I think the way things are moving, it's going to be much more concerned with the outcome rather than how you get there. So if you're able to produce something excellent from, your own home and you're only working, 2-hour shifts at a time or whatnot, I think it's going to be, the same result.
Love it. All right, let's go on to the second half of this panel. We're going to talk a little bit about future workers, and that was a nice segue there, Ahmad. So Emma, I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay. What is LJMU doing to equip students with the skills to thrive in this future of work we've talked about? I think you've already started to allude to some of those skills.
Well, how much time have we got left? Because I could literally speak about this all day. So, as a university, we have things that are within the curriculum and outside the curriculum. Our strategy for learning is that all accredited courses will have a piece of work-based or placement learning within that programme, so that every single student gets some real-life authentic learning. And that can vary from a traditional sandwich placement that's a year long, to a shorter placement, to our business clinic, where teams of students work on a problem for a number of weeks. And then on the other side of the spectrum would be a sort of hackathon, instant challenge, where we get groups of students to work on something that's really novel to them and that they may have not experienced before. Then, of course, outside the curriculum, we have the wonderful Unitemps who are here today. Give us a wave, please. There you go. Sorry. We also have our internships program, which I'm really proud of. Every year we support about 150 mainly SME businesses with a fully funded internship. We can always do more if you split the difference with us. So if you want to speak about internships, get me after this presentation. And we also have a very, very impressive startup program as well. I can see one of our entrepreneurs in the audience. I won't make her wave. But you can see that we come at it from both sides. And I think the key thing for me is that it's experience that counts. And whether that experience is in the classroom with something that's completely new, or whether it's meeting people that you would never usually come into contact with through an internship or through Unitemps, that's what counts.
And the FE and HE sector, they get a bit of stick, right, for not moving with the times, with the skills employers need. And I think LJMU is a bit of an outlier on that. But what I wanted to ask you was, for a lot of universities that don't provide the experiential learning and the skills that employers want, like, what can we do to change that? Is it a problem of the incentivization mechanism for them, the university ranking system? Like, how has LJMU established itself as an outlier, and what changes are needed to equip people with the skills to thrive in the future?
Well, I think the incentivization is changing because over the last few years, higher education has been looked at through different lenses. So not just about research, but also about teaching quality. So we have the teaching quality framework, and we also have, the teaching excellence framework. We also have the knowledge exchange framework as well. So over the next couple of years or so, universities that want to be held in high regard are going to have to join those three things up. Now, we do that already at LJMU, but I think that is more about the culture and how we're completely wired into our ecosystem anyway. So, we are ahead of the game, and thanks for saying that.
Okay. Good stuff. Krystina, I'd love to come back to you. You're an early talent lead at BAE, right, for engineering. So you must see a lot of early talent. So when you interview them, do they tend to have all the skills you need to fulfill roles at BAE and what you'll need in the future?
So when I interview a lot of young people, speak with a lot of young people, they don't have the skills yet, and that's part of, they're quite early on in their career, and it's part of building up those skills as they go through their career. A lot of things that I look for are those experiences that Emma spoke about. So I suppose experiences are really crucial. When I came out of university, I did a master's degree. I did 4 years straight. I didn't do any placement sandwich years or any work experience. And I came out and I was like, I've got a master's, that looks really great. And I actually struggled to find a job because I didn't have any experience or didn't do any networking during that time and make contacts in the industry. So things like that are actually really important. It's not just the education side of it, because you do learn technical, the technical side of things on the job as well, specific to your role. It is those other skills, can you work with people? I asked for, examples. Can you show where you showed leadership? Can you talk me through a project? What went well? What didn't go well? What did you learn? And if they've got experiences that they can use for those questions, it doesn't have to be anything particular. It could be like volunteering they've done, or something in a job that may not be related to engineering, but they've got those experiences that they can draw in to those questions.
And I've got a follow-up question for you, because I suspect a lot of people in this audience, have young candidates apply for their jobs who perhaps it's their first job. And it is a challenge to, sort those who have high potential for your role when you don't have a lot of evidence from those who aren't going to be a fit. And speaking from my personal experience, we've had 3 interns in my company. One of them was Ahmad for a couple of days, absolutely smashed it. 2 were university students who were doing fantastic degrees and doing really well, but we actually fired both because they just unfortunately weren't pulling their weight. So I'd love tips from you personally, but I hope this is useful for the rest of the audience. How do you sort the 21-year-old coming for their first job, who perhaps hasn't been blessed with that much in the way of experiences, but has great potential, from the person who might have had more fortunate experiences but doesn't have that potential?
I think that's really tough because, they might not show it in an interview, but they might have that, they might not feel confident enough yet because they haven't had that experience out in the real world. So that's a really tough one. I guess it is those questions, those scenario questions that I mentioned before. Can you draw upon any experiences that you've had? And kind of, drawing out if they are kind of keen to get stuck in. Have they done a lot of research, about things that are going on in the company? Have they, worked on a project that they're really passionate about, that, that they can show that they've got that drive? So that's the kind of thing that would set someone apart from someone else. But, it is important to take into account lots, we talk about diversity. There are lots of different types of people. Not everyone is really driven, will kind of show that instantly. Some people do take a little bit of that confidence gaining, and I've seen early careers who have gained that confidence. Initially they're scared to ask people questions or reach out to people. They don't take up people's time, and they've changed their mindset over the year that they've been with me, because they've realized people want to help them and they're not a hindrance. That people want to help them learn, and they've had that change, and that does happen as well.
Thanks for that. And I know that I went fully off script with that, Krystina, so thank you for taking that one. Craig, I'd like to come to you. Working in the music industry has probably become harder and harder over the last decade or so, writ large. And some populist press, not me, but some populist press would have you believe that young people aren't really up for hard work. Do you think that's the case?
The devilish populist press. That's not evidence that I see. I see an incredibly talented, driven group of young people that come to our organisation that, are up for working just as hard as, anyone else, or certainly anyone from my generation when we were at the same stage. I think that's a myth that should reside and stay in the realms of the populist press. I think that one thing that I would definitely say that I do see is chiming on that point around values. I think that we see young people that are drawn to our organisation, I think, because of the change that we're trying to create in the world. We've been very, very open and public around our commitments to environmental sustainability, about making sure that is front and centre within our strategy and our day-to-day. And I think that, the organisations need to make sure that the way that they conduct their activities, not just so that you can attract and retain the best talent, but also so that your organisations are relevant in the world that we find ourselves in. I think that's incredibly important. And also as well, just to come back to the point that Ahmad made around outcomes rather necessarily than timesheets. I think that's so true. And I think that the world that we live in now, certainly from a business point of view, is and should be, it's about strategic thinking and thinking about the change you want to make. From my point of view, I want to make sure that my teams have got the flexibility so that they can work in a way that works for them, that then allows them to deliver the outcomes that the organisation needs, not the other way around. So now clearly that becomes a challenge when you've got an organisation that does a variety of different things with lots of different working patterns. So, we have to work differently with a sound engineer compared to someone who's delivering a training program compared to a bartender. It's different to have that kind of parity, but, being outcomes focused and thinking about the culture that you're trying to create are the most important things.
And let's get tactical for a minute. I'd love to hear, how many people are you taking on a year that are young talent? How long does it take before they're productive? And what would your pitch be to others in this audience around whether early talent is worth investing in and why they should do it?
Okay, so we've got, over the last 12 months, we've had 126 young people through our Soundshare training program. We currently have got 56 members of staff. But around a quarter of that will be in events delivery roles that are in-house within the organisation. I think the model that we've developed is very much a work-based learning approach, and I think that translates, equally well in other sectors, as well as it does within a live music venue. So that's thinking about the organisation that we've got and reimagining that as a learning opportunity. So every function that's provided within our building is in and of itself an opportunity for a young person to have a very, very practical work-based learning experience. The challenge is to create a culture within an organisation which is conducive to that. And that's why sometimes, certainly within the live music space, very, very established, quite aged organisations can struggle to take the culture they've got as an organisation and then almost try and retrofit a culture of learning and kind of sharing, where it's expected when one of our sound engineers turns up to work a show that they're going to have a young person on one of our training programs working with them. Now, the fact that they're probably 25 and have been through that program themselves in the last 2 years means that that's completely natural, and they expect that because that's the culture of the organisation. But that's the challenge and the kind of the nut to crack. And I think that it's incumbent on us as a sector and as businesses and as leaders to make sure that we create those kind of cultures for that skill sharing and that knowledge transfer and that development and growth to happen.
Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure that'll be pretty useful for a lot of people in the audience. But I'm going to come to you finally, and then we're going to have some audience questions. So if any of this has sort of chimed with you, or you've got any follow-up questions about the future of work and future workers, then now's the time to start thinking of them to pose to our panel. And so Ahmad, and this requires a little bit of setting up. So my company mainly focused on 16 to 18-year-olds until last month, mainly trying to set them real-world challenges to solve with AI, and we set some pretty hard challenges along the way. Now, your school, Liverpool Math School, we set 16 of these challenges, and Liverpool Math School were the absolute outlier and won, I think, 6 out of the 16, despite us, having contracts sort of across the country and a lot of schools entering. So my question, we've now pivoted to corporates, hence I have to just sort of give that sort of setup. But Ahmad, what skills are you learning at Liverpool Math School and in your spare time, and your peers as well, because a lot of your peers have won these competitions? What skills are you learning that's allowing you to win these future-facing competitions that require deep AI skills and all these uniquely human skills as well?
Yeah, so I think, surprisingly, it's a lot of the skills that Krystina was talking about. You would think that it would just be the technical side, but a lot of the being able to network, being able to pitch and present, those skills are coming in to be really much more valuable to me than just maths, physics, computer science, etc. I think in terms of trying to future-proof myself, I think, yeah, leaning more into those kind of skills and also trying to branch out a bit too. Because I think it was mentioned here before, but AI isn't all that creative right now. If I can be really good at one thing and also take something from a completely different discipline and bring the two together, then I think I'll be in a much better position to find work in the future.
Amazing. And take us into Liverpool Maths School. Like, what's it like? You know, it's a free school. Like, people can go there for free. I'm sure, you know, people here have got their kids going there, hopefully, as well. Like, what skills do you learn there? Is it just, you know, just doing, you know, in an exercise book, doing loads and loads of calculus? Like, what do the skills you gain in a maths school look like?
No, so Liverpool Maths School is almost like the opposite of what you'd expect a sixth form to be like. So we have lectures just like we're in university. It's a lot more casual, a lot more laid back. Like we call our teachers, I can say like my head teacher, Damien, I can call him by his first name. It's very different. And the teachers are all, you know, mega, uber smart, and they're always willing to help you with your work. So it's a very different environment, and I think it's one that's much, much better for learning.
And there's, you know, to come back to quite a repeated theme, it's quite experiential as well, right? Like you're always on a bloody school trip somewhere fantastic. Like, tell us a little bit about that as well, because I just think it's really an interesting theme which has just come out across everyone's responses.
Yeah, there's a ton of opportunities within the math school. For example, we've been to CERN in Geneva. That was one of our school trips. Like Iron Bridge as well. We visited Cambridge. We visited York. We have a lot of trips, and I think it's really nice to be able to see the things that we want to do after university instead of just hear about them.
Brilliant. CERN and then Iron Bridge. Well, there you go. That's where you'll be going next. But thank you so much for that, Ahmed. Well, I think that sort of brings my scripted questions to a close. Before I open up to the audience, because I haven't been prompted just yet to do it, were there any final afterburners any of you four had where you wanted to come in on something that's come up earlier or that I've missed in this panel around the future of work or future workers' skills? No? All right, brilliant. Well, let's open it up to the audience. Has anyone got any questions for our four amazing panelists? I can see one at the back. Can you project? Did you do GCSE drama, or do you need a microphone? You got a microphone.
Definitely no drama, sorry. But from my experience in my industry, which is like digital agencies and things like that, when apprentices or young people as resources have been coming in, maybe they haven't been as utilised as well as they could be from the business side as well. So I was just wondering what you thought businesses should be doing to make sure that they get the most from any sort of resource of young people that comes into the business too.
I would love to hear both of your views on this, because you do this all the time, presumably.
Yes, so I work with a lot of apprentices and young people in different kind of placements and things like that. And I think what works really well is when they get a lot of experience in different areas of the business. So they might spend 6 months with me or 6 months somewhere else and move around and get that experience, build up their competencies. And it also helps them kind of see what they want to do, because they, you know, when you get into a job, you might find yourself in a job that you don't like. But by kind of doing a bit of try before you buy, having that experience in different areas really helps them actually be like, I know I don't want to do that, or actually I do want to come back into this area and work with these people again. So I find that's really helpful for them.
Do you want to come in as well, Craig?
Yeah, I think having real clarity from the business's point of view about what you're expecting that learner to do when they come into the organisation. I think having quite a tight and specific brief is really, really useful and important. You know, I've definitely had experiences in the past of you know, a really, really able, engaged young person kind of arriving, you know, bright eyes and bushy-tailed on that first morning. I was thinking, what on earth are we going to do with this person? They seem great, but I'm so blooming busy. I've got this to do, that to do, that to do, and now I've got to look after this, you know, fabulously kind of excited young person. So I think you know, what we definitely have tried to do with Future Yard is making sure that if we're going to invite a young person into the organisation, we've got the same duty of care to them as we would any other member of staff. So having real clarity around what those expectations are, hopefully a very specific project or program brief, depending on how long the placement is and how long they're in the organisation. And I think if you do that, then you've got an opportunity of both providing a great experience for that young person, but also them adding real value to the organisation when they're there as well.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. If you don't have that in place, it can cause them to become demoralised. So it does really help if you have that plan in place before they come in.
Emma, can I come to you for a final? This is a little bit salty. You must, deal with a lot of employers. Is there one that is particularly good for placements? And if so, why?
Ooh.
If you don't want to reveal that, your favourite, then you don't have to.
I think from a local point of view, we've had some very good placements where we work with, say, an organisation like Liver Labs, who have got lots of startups that we can work with as well as Liver Labs. So it's almost like a brokered experience for the students, because it's really hard if you're a small company or a self-employed person to suddenly gain the skills that you need to take on an intern or to even have the space. So if you are a smaller company, if you're within that sort of co-working environment or slightly sheltered from the working by yourself aspects of startup, that can be really good. I'm just trying to think of who we've had some really impactful projects with strawberry fields. They've been incredible to work with, and I would recommend them as a partner.
Thanks for that. Any other questions, Tom? I can see one in the middle. Are you a drama student? Can you project? Oh, it's on its way. You're actually running.
Not good enough.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering. I think generally around the country, future-proofing for the next generation is, of course, incredibly important. But I think touching on somewhere like Liverpool and like Birkenhead, I think I'd be interested to hear how future-proofing for areas like this that have lower socioeconomic backgrounds, how future-proofing differs in areas like this compared to other areas of the country where opportunities might be more rife.
Do you want to start with that one, Craig?
Yeah, I think it obviously comes down to equity, doesn't it? It comes down to making sure that the opportunities should be available to everyone, irrespective of where you are in the country. And I think what we've got in this part of the world is a really, really unique opportunity. I'm speaking about, from my sector, speaking from a music perspective. Liverpool City region has obviously an amazing kind of like cultural heritage and history within music, but also things like Music Futures and the Creative Cluster Programme, the work at the City Region Music Board, the fact that there is a vibrant, healthy music sector infrastructure here means that it's incumbent on us as a sector to make sure that we open up the opportunities to enter that workforce as kind of equally and with it as much equity as we possibly can do. That's where our Soundcheck programme came from, that impulse to make sure that we're providing those opportunities to people from some of the most challenging backgrounds. If you look at where we're located in Birkenhead, we're in a corridor of some of the highest indices of multiple deprivation in the country. And we target and track and make sure that the referrals of young people who are entering that programme, as much as possible, come from those target communities. So I think it can be done. It just has to be very, very deliberate. And I think that's incumbent on all of us to make sure we do that.
I think as well, adding to that, it's increasing awareness about opportunities. It's not just having them. It's making sure that they're aware that there are these opportunities. That's why I do a lot of working with schools and going into schools to talk about engineering, because a lot of young children don't know what engineering is. So it's explaining, there is opportunities out there, and if you're interested, these are the places that you should kind of go to and speak. These are the people you should speak to.
You can't be what you can't see. It's so true.
Did you want to mention from the Liverpool Math School perspective, Ahmed? Because I know your catchment area is large and you're pulling from, some people have got some pretty big commutes, right?
Yeah, from Liverpool Math School, I have a friend who comes down from Kuht every morning. to come to the math school. But yeah, I think the reason he does that versus going to any of the other schools in his region is because, yeah, there is a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of really good places. I think Liverpool Math School is one of them.
Brilliant, thanks. Any other questions at all?
Hi, so I'm a recent master's graduate from LJMU, and I've got loads of work through Uni-Thames and the Enterprise Place. My question to Emma is, as an international student, I've had to work twice as hard to find my place in an organization or university where someone who's, let's say, less qualified than me has gotten the same position. Throughout my time at LJMU, I've struggled, me and my colleagues, and other students have also been from different courses, as international students, really struggled to find our place in organizations. And in the enterprise place, or like, you know, your higher learning and, you know, your department, do you have any resources that are specifically going to be for and structured for international students to find our place? Because as a master's graduate at the minute, I've been lucky enough to find an internship through Uni-Thames at Liverpool Football Club, and very, very lucky to turn that internship into a full-time position. But unfortunately, that's not been the case for a lot of my colleagues who are engineering students, who've done masters in, like, you know, civil engineering, chemical engineering, sports journalism, and all of that. And unfortunately, they've not been as fortunate to find a place. So does LJMU have any plans in place structured towards international students, since it's moving more and more towards diversity and having more international students be a part of the institution?
Well, thank you for that question. I think I'll answer it in two ways. The first part is related to Uni-Temps, because one of the reasons we developed our Uni-Temps franchise was to support international students, because we recognise that there's a massive gap in the things that are available to them, and your expectations must be difficult to manage when you realise that some of the activities that you can do are not available to international students. So that was one of the driving factors behind Uni-Temps. And you'll know from your own experience that many of your colleagues on Uni-Temps assignments will be international students as well. Now, our support for students like you is very much on the financial side and about the sort of the social aspects of living within the city. But I will take your question as an action, and I will maybe we can work together, and I can understand what your needs are, and we can pilot something this summer if that's okay with you. Okay, I've said it in public, so it will happen. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, and congratulations on your role as well. I presume that was a pretty competitive spot to get as well. All right, we've got a few more minutes. Any final questions? I can see Dave here at the front from Liverpool Math School, though given how apparently informal it is, maybe I'll call you D-Dog. Oh, that's probably really inappropriate. I'm sorry, Dave.
No problem, J-Dog, that's great. So this one's for Ahmad, really. I'm just really interested to know, we really do try and push a whole load of employability skills, so thinking about those, so stuff like communication, teamwork, project work. Which of those do you think you found hardest to pick up? And if the one you found hardest to pick up, is that something that Krystina and Craig and Emma might find, or the skill set that's missing from people going into employment?
That's a great question. D-Dog.
Of course you're going to say that.
Say drama.
Oh. No, I think I will say drama, actually. I remember we had a trip to go and view one of the Shakespeare performances. And that was really interesting, because the whole idea of the day was to try and build our confidence and our ability to, you know, try and put ourselves out there. I think that was quite difficult for me, because it's not really something I would consider doing otherwise. I think a lot of skills you can pick up just by being around certain things and like kind of by osmosis. But if you don't go out there and try these other things like drama, like public speaking, you won't get good at them. So yeah, drama.
I think that's a great a great question. And Ahmad, you can almost turn this one back to Dave and say, what is Liverpool Maths School doing over the next year to improve the public speaking of its students? You don't actually have a microphone now, do you? So we've kind of left you a little bit. It'd be quite interesting to hear. Do you find that something that a lot of students, you're investing in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you all get young people coming in, and even young employers. It's very hard to stand up and talk in front of a group of people, and I'm sure lots of people, even at my advanced age, will have an element of nervousness about this random situation I've landed in. But yeah, our school, we do absolutely prioritise public speaking. We have a structure called Speak, where we encourage students to have a story structure, to be prepared, to be engaging, to be authentic, and to have good knowledge. That's Speak, everyone. So we push that from year 12, and we really do work to develop those skills. So I think we end up with students not willing to talk in front of other people. Just 2 weeks ago, we had individual year 13s presenting in front of people, and they wouldn't even want to speak to teachers at the start. So we work really hard on that, and that's one of the things we think makes a difference to our students' achievement and employability. So one hopes that we're going to get that right, Ahmad, continuing forwards.
Thanks for that, Dave. We've got time, I think, for one more question. Lynn.
It's for you, James, rather than the panel.
Gosh.
I know, no pressure. When we first started speaking to you, I'd seen you speak at the AI Summit over the road in Box Park, which was fabulous. At the time, you were teaching I should know that by now, shouldn't I? AI skills in schools and education, and you're now in a more corporate field. I'd be interested to know what the change in rationale for your businesses and what the kind of differing views are between education and corporate.
Yeah, interesting question. So, I started this company about 18 months ago after leaving 16 years in the public sector, mainly in the military and central government. And initially our sort of mission was to equip 16 to 18-year-olds with the AI skills and the uniquely human skills that we thought would be important going forward, right? Because for us, we thought it's sort of implausible that young people wouldn't be using AI to solve the world's hardest problems going forward. But also we thought that there would be a relative up arrow for, communication skills, ability to work in teams, creative thinking, all these other skills that AI can't really fill the gaps on. So we launched the company doing that. And we had some great early supporters, Liverpool Maths School being one of them, and we had a lot of fun. But the truth of the matter is that, it's just not something that has any money. A lot of comprehensive schools that we were working with, their top priority is, funding their, infrastructure's falling down. They're struggling, having to lay off teachers because they've got no budget. And AI skills, though I think everyone agreed it was important, was just not something that could really be budgeted for. So made the tough decision a few months ago to pivot into corporates and government space. I mean, thankfully, from a business perspective, it's gone tremendously well. We've sort of, 20x'd our revenue in 3 months. But that's only part of the equation, right? In an absolutely ideal world, I'd love for the Department for Education to have perhaps been focusing on the skills of the future that I think are probably going to be pretty important for people like Ahmad, who thankfully has those skills, but, people like that who are going to go into our future workforce. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour for the context of the business switch and now mainly working with big corporates and government. And hopefully one day we'll make enough revenue to come back into the 16 to 18-year-old space because it's such an important space. Hopefully that answers your question, Lynn. Well, I think that ends the panel. I'd like you to join me in thanking all of our fantastic panelists for their contributions. Thanks so much.